Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, and Bill, NE4RD.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. You've tuned into episode 612 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. Tonight we're doing our 138th Weekender, covering a random topic from our picker wheel and our recent hedonistic exploits. But before we get into that, we should let you know who we are. For our silent Q Russ, K52X, I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD, and yes, welcome back. And I'm glad we tuned into the episode this time, not turned into the episode.
Yeah.
But we never know. Like, you could be turning the car at the time that you do the podcast. Yeah. That was so cute. Well, let's find out what we've been doing this week. Cheryl, you want to go ahead and start?
Sure, yeah. So I've kind of divided this up into categories for Bill and I both to do. The first topic is food. The last time I had sushi was with Russ on Christmas Day in St. Louis. So the last few weeks I've been craving it. It's been way too long. We love dining at a sushi bar that's about 75 miles from our house each way. So I headed there on this last Tuesday for dinner. We ate there often enough that our typical server came to the table and asked where Russ was. After I told her, she gave me a huge hug. She then alerted the owner of the restaurant, who gave me a big hug and asked if I would ever come back. I laughed and said, I'm here now and I will be back. Probably not as often, though. And he said that they would miss Russ. So, yeah. He also followed me out to the car to make sure I got in okay. You know, so that's the kind of people that run this restaurant. Regarding computers, I'm still battling issues with Raspberry Pis that I have hooked to TVs that handle our countdown timer for poker games here at the house. I've got 5 days to get this issue figured out before our next poker game, which is this coming Saturday. So everybody wish me luck on that one, because I'm not having much faith in myself right now. I have been into Russ's office once this week, so I haven't even had time to even think about turning radios on. There's too much other stuff trying to get ready for our spring concert and stuff, which is in 2 weeks that we always host at the house. And today has been full of a double gate system being built for our dogs to keep them from continually escaping.
Cool.
And cleaning out our concert venue, getting ready for the spring show on April 25th. So, and that's it for my world. It's just been a chaotic day today.
That's awesome. And I think I did fix the website too, didn't I? I put the new poster up there for the BC Underground.
Maybe.
Yeah, the 2026 Spring Slaughter Free Show food truck site on April 25th, 2026.
Yeah,
be there, be square.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
I grabbed it off Facebook, and I'll get that set up the same way I have the other site, so I can easily just plop in a change and then it auto publishes and stuff like that. So I almost had it set up to do that, but I noticed that it had the old poster on it, so I put that in the gallery, I think, or no, I put it in the I don't know. Maybe I put it in the poster.
It's there somewhere.
Yeah, I did something. So whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar, and this thing is definitely not finished. He had worked on it and obviously was deployed it and stuff like that, but let's just say for the most part, it looks like we have everything there. So yeah, as changes come in, then we can get that pushed in there, and I could probably even show you how to do it because it's actually not as complicated because all the deployment stuff is actually handled through automation. So it makes it kind of easy. Yeah. Let's see here. What did I do? I had nothing notable for food. I'd like to say I experimented in the kitchen, but not really. Killed chicken a couple times this week, like I normally do. Good thing it wasn't like 10 days of chicken. Let's see, computer stuff. I attended the Omicon. It was online. It was hosted. Where was it hosted at? Shopify's headquarters in New York. And Omicron is, of course, the Omarchi conference that was sort of spurred on and sort of happened happened over X. They were all talking about it, and they're like, "Yeah, well, we should just do it." And they had a conference. And it was kind of interesting. It was definitely interesting seeing everybody talk about the projects they're working on it. And I know it's a very weird and opinionated system. It runs on Hyperland, so it's all keyboard focused. And this is the same operating or distribution that I was talking about when I made that video of the weird dialog box handling. So I have reinstalled Omarchi again on my burner box here, and I'm playing with it, and I'm currently backing up my system that I'm recording on right now to perhaps, almost possibly change it to Omarchi as well. Now note that neither of these two boxes do ham radio stuff. So, I haven't quite taken on the task of Omarchi-ing everything in the house here. Just the ones I basically do development work on. So it makes sense for me to sort of have a contained environment like that, because if you were to look at my Fedora screen right now, I basically have it tiled anyway. I'm like 3 steps away from actually just having a tiled operating system. So anyway, that's basically what I've been working on, computer stuff. I haven't moved everything like I said I was gonna. Well, I said I was gonna finish my taxes first. So good thing though, this morning I clicked the button and sent away my taxes, so they are done. And according to the emails, they have already accepted them. So hopefully I will be out of jail soon.
Cool.
So radio wise, nothing. So I haven't changed anything. I have started moving the coax cables because I had them hooked up to the 2 SDRs for that intercept project that we talked about last episode. And I took it all off my radio. So I did plug those back into the radio because I was kind of listening around on I think it was like Thursday or something like that. But I didn't get into playing radio. So I'm going to get back into that. And hopefully before the 7QP, which is coming up here in early May. I think it's the first weekend in May for the 7th area call, QSO party. So anyway, that's all the updates from my side of the podcast. So we're going to go ahead and go into the spin the random topic wheel. And I did test this earlier, and it almost worked without me changing too much stuff. But we have gotten some new topics, so people have put some stuff in there. So I have refreshened the list a little bit. And we'll see what pops up here. It could be one of the new topics. We'll see. Let's see.
Ooh, I hear clicky clicky.
That's amazing.
I know.
When stuff actually works.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's one of the topics that somebody had just recently suggested.
Cool.
It's basically an introduction to picking a distro, like a first timer's distro, which I think we've kind of done in the past. We have talked about it before, but I thought it was like it's a good enough topic to kind of bring back and hash up. So because it is a changing landscape. So our general suggestions are the same one everybody suggests, the crappy ones, right? Yeah, so you can install Mint. It's fine. You'll have a okay experience, but yeah.
Mint is good as a longtime Mint user. Mint is good for the first timer. It's not too aggressive is not the right word for it, but not too chaotic maybe for somebody that's not terribly familiar with Linux. So
yeah, I think the idea really is it's not necessarily the distribution, I would say. I mean, it is to some extent. So the big difference between picking like your first distribution is really deciding which side of the aisle you stand on almost or sit on. Because you have all of the Debian based systems and there's so many of them. And for a Windows user, you technically can use any of them. It's primarily the windowing environment, the desktop environment that you use that will bring you the most familiarity with actually running the system. Whether you have a start bar, a status bar, and a clock on the bottom right and little status icons and stuff like that to give you that familiar Windows feel, especially if you're coming from Windows. Or if you're a Mac user, you'll want something that looks more Mac-like, right? So you want that bottom bar to be there. So you would pick a distribution with a desktop or a windowing environment that matches the kind of look and feel that you want to deal with on a daily basis. Like I was just talking about Omarchi, which I would not recommend for a new user because it is kind of a weird environment to be in because it's all, generally keyboard controlled. It has a lot of functionality for people that are more power users, more developer friendly, where they do a lot of stuff in a lot of different terminals. And when, especially with the invention of Claude Code that everybody uses on the CLI or Warp, it makes sense to have your terminals all over the darn place and not have them stacked on top of each other like you would in a free-form windowing environment where you have windows overlapping other windows and you're like, oh, where's my cursor at and which one is active, and if it's not transparent, is it the one that's inactive, what have you. But generally the Debian ones are going to be I would say lean more towards the friendly side because most people that push out software and make actual binaries or packages, they normally will build a deb package. So in general, you can find deb packages super, super easy. The next one from those families of Debian, so like all your Debians are Debian, like I think Sparky Linux is based on Debian now. You have Ubuntu is based on Debian. Mint is based on Ubuntu, which is based on Debian. Elementary OS is based on Ubuntu, which is based on Debian. You have System 76 is Pop OS. It's another one. It's based on Ubuntu. There's sort of a theme going on here. There's a lot of focus on that. Now, I will tell you that there's recent news with Ubuntu that they've kind of jumped off the cliff in the world of Rust. So a lot of the core utilities are coming out in the Rust versions in this next LTS. So some edge cases are not properly handled anymore, or they're handled differently and maybe ineffectively. So be on the lookout for that. But again, core utilities are going to be probably people that are more on the command line than using the doing environment and stuff like that. But being able to like add a printer, plug in USB devices, seeing your sound control panel and stuff like that, you're going to have the most kind of accessibility to that going with a desktop manager or a desktop windowing environment like either GNOME or KDE. And I think a lot of people prefer KDE just because it's well, it can be more flexible. It can do a lot of stuffs. And it seems to be pretty friendly. They have windowing managers for windowing environments for lesser systems. So they have like Ubuntu Budgie, which I'm currently using here. So I can't really, well, not Ubuntu, but I'm using Budgie as the desktop manager. There's Cinnamon, which is very friendly as well. There's XFCE, which is, again, very simple, friendly, kind of think of Windows 95-ish, start button, everything, it's just easier to use. It's very, very common. Now, the next step from that would go into your RPM-based systems. I think would be like your Fedoras, your OpenSUSEs, and stuff like that. Those you tend to find no problem finding RPM packages, but like some projects are not building RPM packages by default. So once in a while, you do have to kind of go. Let's see. Are we making the suggestion to someone we like or someone we don't like? Yes. Are we making the suggestion? Yeah. So we want you to go with we just want you to go with Arch and just be an Arch user. That's what we want. Or no, Gentoo. That's right. Gentoo. Or Mandriva. Or no, what's it called? Mandrake. Obviously more users that are using a system more users using the ecosystem and everything else, I think the easier it is for a new user to come in because there is so much availability to knowledge and use, and including free, the free AI knowledge when it goes and looks for a problem that you're having. And I heard somebody say it today about Linux. It's fine that Linux breaks, but the nice part about Linux, when it breaks, you can actually fix it, or you can find a way to fix it. And I kind of like that idea. Like, you can't go in thinking that it's going to be perfect and all roses and everything else when you go into picking a system, just because, things might not work. That's why a lot of them come with live installers or a live, distro. So you can try it before you basically, install it. You can check all your hardware, make sure it has drivers for everything. In general, there's good driver coverage in Debian systems, good driver coverage because they're all using the same kernel. They're all using the same Linux kernel. And it's whether or not they have certain options turned on. As you kind of go down the more complex system, sometimes they'll start turning off older stuff to, streamline the kernel, make the kernel very speedy, do some trickery. You'll find various versions of the kernel out there, like the Zen kernel or the Xandros kernel, or there's just like a bunch of different varieties where they've kind of turned off some stuff and turned on some optimizations and stuff like that, which may or may not work really well on some of these older systems, because that's the thing. People used to, say, "Oh, I can grab this, $5 computer from the recycle place and put Linux on it, and it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine." But no, you have, I bring up my Mac Mini that I talked about earlier, the Mac Mini mid 2011. The Wi-Fi drivers aren't compiled with the kernel. You have to actually go out and get those. So the first time you're on it, you either have to have a thumb drive with the drivers that you can actually install, or you have to plug it into Ethernet and go out. That's not very friendly, but it's also because the hardware is ancient and probably shouldn't be used anymore. So we started with Debian. So we got all the Debians. That's probably your easiest entry. Next one would be the RPM based distributions, the Fedoras and everything else like that. Once you get beyond that, I think you're kind of into a territory where you're probably a more specific user. You're kind of wanting some, either more availability to software, whether you have to compile it or not. And I think that kind of gets you into these Arch-based systems where it's like you have the repo, which is really well contained, depending upon which particular distribution you go with. Garuda, Omarchy, CashieOS. There's a bunch of them. Ethereum, I think, is one, or something like that. They're basically all the same. They have their own tweaks and everything else with it, and they also have their own access to their own repositories and stuff like that also augment the Arch repository. But they have this, the Arch user repository, which is basically all of the package stuff that you can compile because people have put together like an installation script, the instructions on how to install it from source, and it simplifies installing stuff from source in some cases. There still can be some caveats to that. Stuff might not actually be fully vetted. You could still have problems with it. There's a lot of work on the command line interface. Cheryl's learned this, right? Cheryl's running Manjaro, which is an Arch-based system.
Yeah, it's Manjaro has been interesting. I'm as each day passes, I like it a little more, but in the very beginning, I had a lot of struggles with it and a lot of yelling at Russ down the hallway to find out what I was doing wrong. So, but I'm slowly learning it, but I have decided that I'm going to drag out one of our older laptops and start installing new distros just to see. So,
which is great. I mean, that's a great way to learn and do that stuff. But yeah, you're kind of learning on that sort of the harder line, the Arch line. So there is some stuff that you have to kind of learn to be more of a power user, that I think is not necessarily as friendly. I mean, many would argue that it's a better system. Manjaro was great and CashieOS is great. It's awesome for gamers and stuff like that. But
I don't game.
Yeah, and there's the Arch wiki, which is really good knowledge and source information for Arch in general. But sometimes you run into things that are very specific to the distribution. Like I've been using Garuda Linux for a long time, and I still run it in my office as like sort of my just junk computer in the office. And yeah, that thing's gone through some weird life with when KDE does major changes, because it runs KDE as well. And when Plasma gets updated to a different version, occasionally things kind of break with the theming because they'll deprecate some stuff. So occasionally the desktop environment looks all whacked for a day or so until they put a patch out to fix everything and get the theme back in alignment with that. So sometimes in those systems things will lag and they're not quite polished. But yeah, I don't think you see some of that in the larger distributions because they're just so vetted. There's so many users. Things like like Fedora, it's basically feeding from and feeding to Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which, they have a lot of money invested in getting those commercial accounts. Same thing with Ubuntu. Yeah, Canonical is very much a big player in the commercial market space. So like they have a vested interest to ensure that the product is always good and that the baseline of everything, whether it's feeding into or feeding back into, is good. So like, you gotta kind of follow the money, I think, on these free and open source systems and stuff like that. The more money that's being pushed into it from those aspects always benefits us as the user and always benefits making things work more often with hopefully less interactions to get them to work. Now, mind you, as ham radio operators, we do weird stuff with our systems that most users don't do. We plug stuff into serial devices, and serial devices, nobody does that anymore. When's the last time you went out and bought a serial printer? Yeah, it just doesn't happen. So and then like the other ones like Omarchi, which is technically Arch, but like they're more boutique kind of systems. They're very, very specific use cases. They're very NixOS is very popular. It's got a lot of traction. I think there's a lot of business interest in it, and I see a lot of commercial interest in it. But I think it's more of a power user kind of setup. I mean, maybe someone has used it in the chat room here. We have several in the chat room tonight. I have played with it, but I'm of the opinion that it's probably not ready for just everybody to use nonchalantly. Steve mentions immutable distros add a level of complication for some users migrating from Windows. I don't necessarily find that to be true. Both boxes I have at the theater running soundboards are running immutable distros. They're both running Fedora Onyx. So, and they run fine. But again, I'm not compiling anything on those boxes. I'm just installing Flatpaks and packages that way, and they get updated. Everything seems to run fine. The one's been in production for at least a season and a half, and then the other one I just put in production last week. So yeah, the only thing I can say is that the version, even though I have the same one installed in both places, because I used it, I installed the other one, it was Fedora 42 or something like that. They do look a little different. Like when the 42 got updated to 43, it didn't change its themes or anything else like that to match it. So they do look slightly different with the look and feel. That's the only weird part I find about that particular aspect of it. But I think immutability is probably not such a big deal anymore. I could be wrong on that, but you think about everything that like we talked about Intercept last episode, and it has a Docker install, which technically, what is that? Is that kind of immutable, right? Sort of, something you don't mess with. It's sort of containerized. It's sort of all by itself. It's really meant to keep it static in a certain spot and always kind of run. Sometimes you get more stability out of that, but NixOS is a mutable system, and lots of people use it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not on the anti-immutability train on that. I think they all have use, and I think they can be used by anybody, because it's not really apparent to the user what is actually going on. And when you do something, when you do something that's going to change the system in a way in which you'll have to get a hash mark or hash upgrade to your kernel, which I have done. I have seen that in a system. It handles that remarkably well. And when you get an update, it reapplies that patch to the next immutable version. So that stuff is all worked out now. So I don't know if that's something that maybe you ran into at some point where you put something on there and it upgraded and now it didn't work right. I think that has gone to the wayside, at least from my experience. So did we answer that? Do you have any more to say on that, Cheryl? I know you're going to kind of get into doing some distro hopping on the new computer or on the laptop and kind of play around.
Again, as I said in the beginning, if you're just now jumping out the gate trying Linux, I would definitely encourage somebody to use Linux Mint, because it's very Windows-like. There's not a whole lot of issue with it. And I've had people, dog sitting or whatever for us that have used my computer. They didn't actually know they were using Linux because they sat down at a computer with Linux Mint on it. So, other than things being a little weird, I was like, oh yeah, that's just how I had my desktop set up. They're like, oh, okay, but they had no idea they were using Linux. So yeah, it's Linux Mint to me is extremely Windows-like, great for first-time users. Probably anything, in the Ubuntu /Debian, category would fit that. Manjaro, as I said earlier, has been somewhat of a struggle for me, but again, I've used Linux for 15-ish years now. Granted, I've just been a user. I've not done a lot with terminal Windows command lines, anything like that. That was always Russ's job. And it's now Bill's job to talk me through it. So there you go. But, Manjaro, again, in the beginning, I was struggling with it because I was missing stuff that I was used to with Linux Mint. But as each day passes, I fall a little more in love with it. So I'm sure I could probably sit down and actually spend time and do a little more tweaking of it to make it more favorable to me. But otherwise, it's been fine. It truly has. But I definitely wouldn't send somebody that was just running out the gate with Linux. Manjaro would probably not be, the thing that I would suggest. But like Steve said, is this something we're suggesting to somebody that we like or that we don't like? Yeah. If it's somebody we don't like, sure, let's send them out there with Manjaro and see how they do.
Set them up for failure, going to fail, right?
Yeah, they're going to fail miserably.
Give them something that doesn't even have a live distro. Like literally, the only option you have when you plug it into the USB drive is to install it. That's
yeah, exactly.
That's like Omarchi is pretty much one of those. You're committed. You just got to go ahead and install it. Which is kind of interesting.
Right.
So Steve was saying that he hasn't personally used one. He heard issues with things like Zoom settings not sticking, and some folks at work who tried Fedora, that was on Silverblue. Now, I haven't tried Silverblue, but the mutable part of the system is not the home directory. So pretty much anything in the home directory should be constant between all of the updates around that. So like the immutable stuff is the system itself. It's the kernel, the modules, all that stuff. So the stuff that you could break, like the system. And it could be the fact, I don't know how Zoom was installed, but I think you can probably install it on Flatpak, and it probably works fantabulous there. So, Plus Zoom is just garbage software anyway. I use it all the time, but it is garbage.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's not quite as bad as Teams, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think we perhaps got kind of maybe overdid it on this topic. So like I think we need to move on and get into
Sure.
our hedonism. So
Sure.
you guys keep on chatting in the chat room, and if there's anything else to say and add to that, we can definitely add it back. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Let's get into your recipe corner.
All right. So this time for the recipe corner, I picked spring chicken salad. This is an item served at one of our local coffee shops, and I know the owner, so she gave me the recipe, and I have since tweaked it to my preferences. It's great as a brunch item or a light meal on a hot summer day, and it can be whipped up super quick if you've got some rotisserie chicken on hand, and you can grab carrots and green onions already prepped at most grocery stores. I do 99% of my shopping at Walmart, and they have those available. So for this, you need chicken breast, mayo, it doesn't have to be breast, any sort of chicken, mayo, cooked chicken. Let me get that in there too. God, I'm failing tonight. Mayo, raspberry vinaigrette, salad dressing, some thinly sliced celery, some julienne carrots chopped into bite-sized pieces, some chopped walnuts or pecans, some finely sliced green onion, which this is optional, obviously, some halved seedless red grapes. Green will work as well. Red just adds color. And a loaf of baguette bread, and this is optional as well. So one thing I will say about the baguette bread is it's better if you find like a mini loaf that has an end piece. So that way, because you hollow the bread out and you stick your chicken salad down inside it. This also works great as a lettuce wrap or on a hamburger bun or bread or whatever you want. But the restaurant that I have had this at the past, which I don't do it anymore because of gluten issues, serves it in the baguette, with stuffed baguette bread. So it's super light. It's super simple. So if you have some chicken left over, you can probably get this all mixed up in 5 minutes. So it's quick and easy and very tasty. So, and of course the recipe and my notes about it will be in the show notes. So, and for my mixed drink corner, because it's kind of springy, summery, I picked the peach Bellini, and I'm definitely an equal opportunity girl when it comes to alcohol, for the most part. Although I'm still trying to learn to love gin, it's been a struggle. But you'll find me enjoying a girly drink like the one I'm sharing today, or a finger of scotch tomorrow. You never know. And this works great as a brunch beverage. And this involves sliced peaches, frozen strawberries, peach schnapps, and some Prosecco or sparkling white wine. And it makes a very tasty drink. So, and I actually, because I kind of missed Russ's drink corner, so I'm hijacking it this week, and I'm sure Bill will occasionally hijack it as well, since he's a whiskey drinker. But this time, and I actually quote unquote reviewed this on Discord not long after Russ died. This week's been busy, but I decided to go ahead and share it here. So I'm sharing my review, my personal review, on the Elijah Craig small batch. This bottle is from the C918 batch, meaning it was their third release for the year, bottled in September of 2018. This is one of the many bourbons that Heaven Hill Distillery bottles. Russ and I visited their facility several years ago and took a hand at bottling our own favorites from their collection of brands to enjoy at home. This was not one of the ones that was offered that we bottled. Elijah Craig was a Baptist preacher who created the process of true Kentucky bourbon. He's credited with the process of putting the distillate into charred oak barrels. Citing a surge in popularity and supply not meeting demand, in early 2016, Heaven Hill Distillery removed Elijah Craig's age statement and began blending younger stock into its non-age stated small batches. So the mash bill on this is 78% corn, 10% rye, and 12% malted barley. It comes from Bardstown, Kentucky. The proof on it is 131.4, which is 65.7 ABV.
Booyah.
The color of it, oh boy, yeah. The color of it is a copper color. The nose on it is brown sugar with some well-toasted pie crust, not quite burnt, but getting really brown, and some cloves. The taste of it is vanilla and oak, followed by the sweetness of corn syrup from a pecan pie. And I also picked up a tiny hint of cherry and a touch of honeysuckle. The finish on it is extremely heavy in the baking spice category. And of course, the rye makes it spicy. But the lingering end was heavy clove and extreme sweetness, a mix between caramel and that pecan pie corn syrup taste. Currently, now mind you, this is very limited in availability due to the age. It's running at about $200 plus for a 750, and my personal rating on it is about an 89. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not drinking anything that sophisticated. I mean, for transparency, I'm actually drinking a Modelo Negro right now. But just because I don't have this stuff at home that I'm going to talk about, but I've had it. I think I just rated it on Untapped just the other day. And if I didn't, I should probably put it in there. This is a Num Num Juice Hazy IPA from Fall River Brewing in California. That's right, folks. It's an IPA. We're all free to talk about IPAs now. So we don't have
Russ isn't going to give you a crap. Yeah.
That's right. Russ is turning over right now and saying, "What the hell? No IPAs."
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Num Num Juice Hazy IPA is a tropical juice bomb that shifts to an almost candy-like finish on both the nose and the palate. While being served in a coconut with a little umbrella seems fitting, the can it's in will have to do. And in my case, I had it off draft. So it's nom nom, and that might leave you num. So drink responsibly. Cheers. This is a 7.5% ABV. It has an IBU of 33, which I think is pretty low for an IPA. And yeah, it's a great drink. It's very, very thick. Like, opacity light does not pass through it very easily. It's definitely the hazy IPA, and it is a juice bomb, much like you would expect. And it's very, very good. You could definitely drink too many of these too quickly. I tend not to, but I do want to. but I know better. So yeah. I normally stick to 2, and that's about all I drink. It's good. It's very good. And if this had a rating, it would definitely be in the upper 90s. It's a very great representation of a hazy IPA and what it should taste like. And yeah, it looks great. It has a great smell to it as well. And it has some availability. Yeah, it's the IPA corner, Steve. That's what we're talking about. It's the IPA corner. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, I think next time I'll do a sour, because there's an interesting sour on tap right now that is one of the vomity smelling, kind of tasting ones that are very
yummy
sour. Yeah. Well, there's 2 sour. There's the lemon kind of soury taste kind of thing, and then there's the stomach bile kind of taste. But it's only there. You
want to go out and get a couple of glasses of it.
It's weird that you could say that stuff is even good, but yeah, you sort of have to get past that first initial sip, because it is kind of disturbing to the palate, instantaneously. Right. But the second one, you're like, okay, well, now I'm kind of getting everything else, because your brain kind of erases the fact that there's that weird soury taste to it. And
right.
Yeah, as you drink into it, you're like, okay, well, more and more, you're like, oh, well, this is actually pretty good. And I think that's the thing with sours. When people just taste it, they just have a quick sip, and it just kills your tongue instantly, because you're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, and there are some that are truly horrible. I mean, there are. I definitely had one from Bozeman Brewing. It's a prickly pear peppercorn or something like that. That thing was disgusting.
Interesting.
I never want to put that in my mouth again. That was the worst one I've ever had. But yeah, there's definitely ones that become more interesting This one has a tangerine taste to it, which is just kind of makes it kind of weird. It's like you get that sour taste, then it's all of a sudden it's like it tastes orange. And like it's like
All right.
I gotta have another sip of that just to see if I'm really tasting that. And I was trying to figure out like it's not orange, it's something else. It's similar to orange. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, it's tangerine and passion fruit. That's why. That's why.
Interesting. The thing with describing booze with like, it has that vomity taste or whatever,
Yeah.
or smell. A lot of people, when they're like, I've never had scotch, what does it taste like? And I'm like, well, it can taste like, it can taste like a 1970s plastic Band-Aid. And they're like, ugh. And I'm like, oh, no, that makes it really good. And they're like, oh, gross. I'm like, nope, sorry. That's where it's at for me. And they're like, ugh.
Yeah, or they're so smoky that they're just like, you're like, I'm eating a barbecue grill.
Right, yeah. Well, Nick Offerman says that, smoke is the way to go. So, like campfire in a glass. So, and that was the thing with me when I attended Whiskey Fest here in Branson, Missouri with Russ. That was my Christmas present to him. And I went to their like Whiskey 101 class or whatever. So they went around the class. Everybody except for 3 of us liked whiskey, and the rest of us were like, okay, the instructor or speaker was like, I want to see you guys after class, So he had a tray and he had Lafroig and he had Jack or something on it and something else. I don't remember what it was. So he handed me the glass of Lafroig and I was like, oh yeah, I'm set. And he was like, okay, the vodka girl has now turned to Lafroig. Like, I'm not always vodka, And he was like, all right, whatever. So he was like, all right, you win. So because everybody else was like, bleh. And I was like, oh no, that's really good. So, but yeah, so Russ was always buying me for Christmas, birthday, whatever. He would go on a hunt for Lafroig that had been bottled on my birthday. So, nice. And we've got 2 or 3 different ones. So, but
awesome. Well, let's go ahead and move on to announcements and feedback. Why don't you handle the announcements and I'll handle the feedback.
All right, you have fun with that. So for our announcements this week, obviously we need help supporting the show. We don't rely on any sort of paid advertising from anyone. So we rely on donations from our listeners. So if you want to help us out, you can do that via Patreon, PayPal, or just buy some merch. A few bucks a month helps us out immensely when it comes to covering the cost of giving you the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. Just remember that. We always need topics. Always need topics. Weekender episodes, anything goes. You want to hear about, our favorite color? Sure, great, we'll tell you. You want to hear about some sort of Linux distribution or how to install something? Just reach out. We'll tell you about it. And we need ideas for things you'd like to hear about in our deep dive episodes. So if you've got any topics for either one, you can email your suggestions to info@lhspodcast.info. We will be at Hamvention May 15th through the 17th, 2026 in booth 2206. So make sure to stop by and see us. I will be there with a case of Kleenex, I'm sure. So, because several people have already said they're going to need it when they're there. I have a repeater for sale. So please spread the word to anyone you can think of that might be interested. If you're not personally interested, the repeater that Russ had set up had been taken offline because of his death. So if anybody's interested in everything available, this is sold as a package deal only. Please reach out to us at info@lhspodcast.info. We'll get you details and pictures. Pickup is in Southwest Missouri, the Billings, Montana area, or at Hamvention. Or if you live along the route to between our houses and Hamvention, that's fine. Bill does travel other places, so he might be able to get it to you. Just need to ask. We'll let you know if it's a doable thing or not. And I'm having a memorial service for Russ November 1st at our home in Mount Vernon, Missouri. Everyone is welcome. So if you'd like to join us, please send us an email to info@lhspodcast.info. We'll send you more info about that. And you'll get to see Bill. Not only we get to see me, but you'll get to see Bill. Provided, like, the world doesn't end or something, you can't make it. So.
Yeah, and that gets us on to the feedback here. We had several emails that came through the system here, so thank you for reaching out and giving us some feedback. The first one comes from Peace Carmen, W1DCN, and they say, "Hello LHS. First, let me say how much I appreciate the pod. The pod. It is a great listen. I mourn with you at the loss of Russ. You are all in my prayers." Second, I have a topic suggestion. I'm an old DOS guy. I remember being in the United States Air Force and getting the new PCs, in quotes, with Windows 1 on them. Oh, the days. And being amazed that I could have a picture of an analog clock in one corner and another utility in a different corner. Nonetheless, I have spent most of my computer life in a Windows world, and I am a little perplexed by the Linux paradigm. Would it be possible to have an intro to Linux command series? Oh, okay, that's interesting. I suspect there may actually be something like that already in the back catalog, but it might be worth revisiting. Just tossing it out there. I know I would really appreciate it. I think we have done something similar, but we can definitely revisit that. I mean, that would be very useful for Cheryl because she's just learning the command line. Because she has to take care of her own stuff now. So definitely we can go through all the command line things that are kind of fun to do. And I think we've even talked about some utilities that are kind of nice to have that are a little bit better than the default ones that generally are installed in the system. So we'll definitely take that into consideration. Thanks for sending us that email. The next one comes from Tiago S. Says, "Hi there. I hope this email finds you well." I instantly thought it was AI. "I am a new listener to the Linux and the Ham Shack podcast. I have been enjoying the content, and I'd like to suggest covering the alternatives to N1MM on Linux if it hasn't already been considered. I wish you all a wonderful day in the USA. Cheers from a very sunny southern Brazil." Well, thank you, Tiago, for sending that email. And we have talked about Not 1MM, and we've done a podcast with it, and we even had Mike on the podcast talking about it. So yeah, we will definitely revisit that because I think that's a topic that is always in front of mind for all of the contesters out there and all the utilities and stuff like that, and like which contests it's compatible with, which contests easy to do. Do you need to use a combination of that and like WSJTX or the other one I can never think of, FL Digi. Yeah, so there's definitely some content there that I think we can revisit, contesting on Linux. So yeah, look out for a deep dive on that, and maybe we'll go into several options. I know at least one of our users uses YFK test. There's probably many more that just don't admit it. It's a great contesting software as well for Linux. So yeah, we'll definitely revisit that, and we'll kind of make the loop on all that stuff. So thank you for that idea, and I'd expect that probably soon in the catalog. I kind of like that topic idea. The next email comes from Steve D. And he says, "Hello again, Steve here. I watched one live recording before the loss of Russ." Okay, you listened to probably one live recording. We don't really video it, but I am so sad for you. Not sure how to follow up after that sad memory. However, did listen to your last show where you asked for show ideas. I think this would be a great time to do a reboot, start from the very beginner's perspective. Beifeng VHF radios are the ultimate starter radio. Your first Linux installation and why? Okay, we just covered that topic tonight.
Yeah, we basically just covered that, right?
Yeah, some notes on testing and how to study and practice. Okay, yeah, there's lots of utilities out there for doing this. So yeah, we have some definite ideas in there. Whether they're deep diveable, we'll see. But those are great. I have been a ham for several years, but consider myself a beginner because I just started using HF and now an empty nester, so I should have more time. As a new ham, I would always hear there are so many things to do in amateur radio. It's amazing. But no one actually have a list so beginners could be introduced to these areas. Very good idea. I was not sure what people were talking about. Then someone would mention a topic later, and I would look it up, like fox hunting or satellite comms or what a JPOL was. So if you could make a list of these for newbies and a show on each, it would be great. Examples would be SDR, useful websites, CW practice transmissions, basic antennas, SWR, intro to HF, what is QRP, how to do a signal report, how to participate in a net, etc. I can see that your team and Russ had put so much time in the podcast with wonderful website and all the tools and services. I wish I had discovered your podcast earlier. I would like to watch the shows being recorded live like I did one time before. Can you give me the recording schedule and link if that's okay? Thanks again for a cool show. And I believe all these you've actually replied to them, so
Yes.
they've all had their answers. So
Yeah.
very great suggestions, and we'll definitely take these into consideration. Again, we do have some topics that we've already covered in some detail, whether it's be a deep dive into various SDR packages or just general use of stuff. So yeah, we could always circle back and do some more content on this because there is a ever-changing landscape, especially with more and more software being created via our favorite tools like Claude and all those other tools, ChatGPT and stuff like that. There's a lot of slop getting out there, but there's also a lot of useful tools, I think, that are starting to appear that would be useful to kind of look at. So yeah, I'm kind of interested too in a lot of the newer stuff that maybe can give you access to some of the new ideas of how to use our hobby and stuff like that. Let's see here. The last email, I got a lot of emails, came from Ted Popke, WO Whiskey Oscar Zero Radio. It said, just started listening in January, getting back into ham radio in retirement after a 30-year break. I started your podcast because I've always dabbled in Linux, but needed Windows for work. I tried starting at the beginning, but it was too far back in the dark ages. Yes, we have podcast has been around since 2008. So it's there's a lot of old content in there, and yeah. So always listen to the new stuff. So I jumped to the end. Good idea. Your recent YOLO episode 610 wanted topics. I would appreciate a Linux ham refresher course, basic Linux toolkit and stack, topics, deep dives. These are deep dives. Okay. Rig control, logging, which we have done these too. We should probably revisit rig control because I think that landscape is starting to change a little bit too. These don't have to be a full episode, just a focus segment on that discussion state of the art for each topic. Thanks. Yeah, so these could be definitely one of those short picker wheel topics that we throw in there, and we just have to YOLO it. Just to bring YOLO back in there. So that's it for the emails. Thank you so much for sending feedback. We really appreciate all the emails. Please keep them coming. info@lhspodcast.info is the email that sends to both me and Cheryl. So we will get your note and definitely share it here on the pod, the podcast. And we have a pretty meager list here of subscribers and supporters. So we'll let Cheryl handle that.
Okay, for paid patrons, we didn't have anybody. Nobody on PayPal. For our free Patreons, we had Michael Meadows. On Facebook, we had Josh Wicks, Max Maskovic, and Christian Wisda. On Instagram, we didn't have anybody. X and Twitter, we didn't have anybody. Mastodon, we didn't have anybody. And for our live show participants, we had Dan, KB6NU, Steve, KJ5T, and Don, KB2YSI.
That's funny. Christian Wisda is one of the bartenders at the bar.
Interesting.
At Bar Montana. So yeah, that's we call him Wiz.
Nice.
He's like, I'm going to listen to your podcast. And I'm like, I don't know if you really want to listen to it. But,
Okay, you can listen. Yeah.
Here it is. So now we've already mentioned him on the podcast. Maybe he'll hear this. Maybe this will be his first episode that he hears. So who knows?
There you go. Cool.
Well, I don't see any other. Let's see. Look, we had a couple more things here on the chat room. Blah blah. My favorite spot doesn't have 100 taps. Oh, you're talking about number of taps. Yeah. 61. Actual counts usually varies 50 to 61 choices. I was thinking about building a Grafana dashboard for tracking the rotation. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Anything to use more Grafana, right? And I haven't mentioned the K2BSA in a while. It's nothing to W.
Yeah, that's true. You haven't.
That's right. The K2BSA will have a booth at 2205 right behind Linux in the Ham Shack. We will be at Hamvention as well. I'm sort of heads down trying to work on National Jamboree stuff. We got the team assembled. We're working on getting all of the merch created. So like we create contact sheets for the scouts, and we create a little token giveaway for the scouts. And I believe ICOM is making them this year, so we're getting those directly from ICOM. We've got patches because if in scouting, if you don't get a patch, it never really happened. So we have station patches for our sub area in the National Jamboree. yeah, it's I'm very busy with it. Lots of conference calls and lots of following up emails with everybody, and we're trying to wrap up getting the entire team all of the stuff they need for check-in right now, because it is coming up here in July. So I think they all land on the ground July 19th in West Virginia at the Summit Bechtel Reserve. So they have to get all their ducks in a row and everything else, get their health checks and send those in and everything else, just to make sure that they're ready and I'm ready and everything else. So yeah, lots of stuff going on with that. I do attend, well, at least I try to attend. There's a monthly radio scouting net on Echolink on the star JOTA-365 star, where we talk about radio scouting, and everybody has an interesting topic to talk about. Normally there's a curated list that the net control goes over and kind of creates conversation between everybody, and it's pretty good. I did make it this month, and we had about 9 or 10 check-ins, so a pretty good showing of people interested and wanted to talk about Jamboree on the air and stuff like that, and like how to do camps and the SCOTA program and whether that's going to get fleshed out fully at some point. So yeah, lots of stuff. So yeah, I could talk about K2BSA all day, but it needs its own podcast probably. I don't know. Well, having that, and I don't see any more shareable notes. I think Cheryl, why don't you go ahead and close us out?
Alrighty then. Well, that brings us down to the end of our show. Thank you for listening. We will catch you in 1 week with our short topics episode. So, this has been episode 612, our 138th weekender of Linux in the Ham Shack. For Russ, K52X, I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.